Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about Donald Trump making war on an American city, and not just any American city, Chicago, Illinois, a big blue city that he wants for political reasons to portray as overrun with criminals and violent immigrants. That second message has been basically the mainstay of many of these immigration operations, except it hasn't been true. Surprise, surprise. It's really, they've disproportionately arrested people whose immigration papers are not in order or the like, as opposed to these marauding criminals that Trump continually scares the people of the United States with. This is a whole different level, though, because this is in execution of what he told assembled military folks on Tuesday. He wants to really bring the military to bear in some of these big cities. Now, he hasn't deployed or otherwise triggered any sort of special federal policy like the Insurrection Act for the use of the military. Rather, he is simply saying this is a normal situation, and therefore the military, including the National Guard, can come around and help the immigration authorities protect the feds and the like. But it certainly doesn't sound like that, or leaving aside who has done what and whether, in fact, the National Guard and other agents on the ground are just there to protect federal facilities. We've got something far more serious that happened Tuesday night. The feds basically attacked in a sort of whole military assault a building in Chicago on the rationale that members of Tren de Agua, the drug organization that they say operates in the United States, frequented there. Doesn't even know what that means. But this is a rundown building. It has had problems. There have been squatters. Whether most of them are from Tren de Aragua or not, we don't know from what's been reported, but we do know what happened, which is, as if the military was just taking over a building of an enemy. They rappel down from the ceiling, they bang in doors, they arrest people, including U.S. citizens, including children who are just pushed out in the night with no clothes, separated from their parents, stuck in vans and the like. And then the apartments inside are all ransacked. And we have pictures of, just a place that's been turned upside down. But because, or one would think, it's in a war zone like, Iraq or Afghanistan. And guess what? It isn't. So they have tried here to say this canard, as I mentioned, that, this group really is Tren de Agua because it's there. We're at war with them. That's the question, though, right? And the whole notion, it's been used. I'll get back to the law in a moment, but just the facts, some people, including U.S. citizens, are living in this building, and all of a sudden, like when we killed bin Laden, you just have agents totally crashing down doors, grabbing people, and putting them in detention. Now, recall, the law here, and you have Homan and others touting it, is they can't use any force against people. What they can do, and all they can do, is these so-called Terry stops, which consist of asking a couple questions of people as for whom there's particularized suspicion, a real reason to think they are violating the law. You can ask them a couple questions and they don't have to answer. But if in asking these questions, the particularized suspicion you have ripens in to probable cause, then you can make an arrest. That has zero resemblance to what was going on at 7500 South Shore Drive in Chicago late Tuesday night. You can't have particularized suspicion unless they're going to be able to come to court and say, oh, this inhabitant of 2F, we actually knew. Doesn't seem like that was it at all. They just come down in a total show of force and military force. Where do you see this kind of force happening? In wartime, where that's the whole point, a completely different rules of the road. We're at war with people. You have to go in. You can shoot and kill them without, knowing if they've done anything wrong. They're foreigners, and we are have in the special role of defending the country against invaders. What happens in domestic politics and law? There are people who, violent criminals, whatever, but they are part of the U.S. and you arrest them according to rules. You comply with the Fourth Amendment. You possibly take them to trial with all kinds of protections. You convict them. All that is fine. But what's basically gone on here, you can see, is they've taken this paradigm for what you do during wartime and just applied it to the middle of Chicago and American residents. Oh, and by the way, over the strident objections of the local authority who say, keep the hell out of here with your grandstanding immigration operation. By the way, immigration operation, that's another point here. It looks as if they have no judicial warrant, just an administrative warrant issued by executive branch officials that gives limited authority, but certainly is not a license to arrest consistent with the Fourth Amendment. So it seems totally clear that, I can't imagine a state of affairs where it's going to turn out that they were complying with the rules here that have been very well established by the different decisions. You can have a so-called Terry stop. You can ask some questions after Justice Kavanaugh's kind of Delphic opinion in the case coming up from California. Maybe you can use, along with other things, unidentified other things, facts about their ethnicity, language, etc. But none of that even happened here. We just had the doors banged down, and they're going to try to justify anybody. There's some 30 arrests of immigrants. That's not what they were saying was happening here. What they were saying is we can do this extraordinary basic military operation because we have the members of this gang with whom we are at war, and they mean it legally, at war, just as we'd be, at war in World War II with Germany. That's what they need, to be at war. So this government by metaphor is basically a license for complete rough road evisceration of everybody's Fourth Amendment rights in the buildings. And, you might want to check out the videos. They are harrowing and sort of stomach wrenching. You had, naked children some suggested they were sort of tied together. And it's just a walking compendium of Fourth Amendment violations, and under the supposed ostensible authority that I don't see how it holds up in court, which is this isn't just a drug gang we're fighting like drug gangs all over. This is war, and we can do all these things. So it's really trying. It's not an exaggeration to say they are making war on residents of Chicago, and in military fashion, and using the National Guard and others for it, ostensibly just for auxiliary operations. Here's the battering ram, guys. Knock down the door. I doubt it'll turn out that way. It looks like really a bunch of really over-eager, under-trained military folks went in and helped and just totally ransacked a place where a lot of residents and citizens lived, and completely ignoring the Fourth Amendment. Now, and if anyone who's arrested there will now be able to come to the court and say, look at all these things that they did wrong. So we ought to get some kind of judicial determination here. But it sure looks as if they, basically are trying to justify wartime conduct against aliens, but applied to non-wartime conduct against residents and citizens. And isn't that Trumpian? Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.